Well, my friends, welcome. I know this is late, late, late at night, 11:30, 12:30, whatever. How's my hair? My kids said I look like Willy Wonka. So, anyway, it's good to see you. And I'm at the National Policy Council, the Council for National Policy. This is the most powerful Christian conservative group started by Tim LaHaye and Phyllis Schlafly years ago, and now being stewarded by Ed Meese, Tony Perkins, and various others. For the most part, evangelical. Not too many Pentecostals here, but that's okay. We have a few closet Pentecostals in the midst. Anyway, I'm interested in what's happening in Washington because, as your roving underground ninja, ran into a lot of people that have read the book on God's Chaos Candidate. They come out of the woodwork, and it's very helpful. I really think that our movement helped to move the digits for the Cyrus Trump narrative that helped many Christians get comfortable with the fact that Trump wasn't the card-carrying evangelical they thought he was, or they hoped he'd be, or the Ted Cruz they were looking for. But they got behind him. 83 to 84% of evangelicals voted for him. And his appointments in Washington lately are being viewed every night by the Clinton News Network, otherwise known as CNN, and they're of course calling it, dangerous right-wing, hardliners. That's what they call people that are real conservatives, right-wing hardliners. So they don't call left-wing softliners. By the way, did you notice the "Not My President" movement out there on the street that's going on? I don't recall there being protests the last two times that Obama got elected. Do you? I don't remember thousands of people going out in the street that were Republicans and disappointed conservatives and evangelicals saying he's not my president. So this is the classic exposure of the adolescent lawlessness and mindlessness of the liberal left. Now, somebody might say, well, Lance, it's not very charitable as a Christian to say that, but I think we need to recognize that we're in a spiritual battle, and that the left wing is actually an ideology. It's kind of like a false religion. Think of it as a false religion with false prophets and false apostles and false teachers on college campuses who are educating the next generation. And what concerns me about what I see here in Washington is the disconnect. While the Christians here are, they're real thinkers. Conservatives are thinkers. You can see that. They really look, it's a very nerdy kind of group. A lot of, you know, aging white evangelicals with, scholarly looks about them. But we're missing a radical element. We're missing that unpredictable piece. We have got to catch, we've got to find our lane in this thing. And this is my first trip here, and I'm going to stay engaged with it because these are the movers and shakers in the Christian communications. Even Salem Communication is here, the CEO, etc. But we have got to recognize something. There is a narrative that is on the news. Look at the news as the propaganda network for the left and realize that we don't have a media presence. We're going to have to create a digital presence that's even greater. We've got to create a digital channel that's going to create the counter narrative and some witty viral YouTube videos. We're going to have to create them. I know the market's there because every now and then I'll hit 500,000 to 1 million, views or more on something, and I realize that there's an organic desire for Christian clarity regarding subject matter that is not just spiritual. And so our trap is we keep on wanting to just suck the world into our world, but we actually have to go into their world. We have to go into the world of the true liberal, which is trying to make a place for the common man, for everybody, that just doesn't have a kingdom revelation. And we can't get sucked into the pure conservative political movement because this country is very unstable, and that we're only one economic recession away from all the teeming masses of discontent that were with Bernie and many that went to Trump that are looking for some kind of a counterbalance to this idea that there's an establishment elite that is out of touch with the average person and their struggles. That's what got Trump in. It wasn't a Christians, of course, were critical in giving him that 83% of us that showed up that created maybe 30% of the total votes, but we're not a majority in the country. Christians can't simply we can influence who goes somewhere, but we ourselves are not the prevailing narrative. We've got to get a kingdom message out into the world system. The secret is to do so in the language that the world speaks. We're going to have to translate kingdom ideas into the debate about equality, racial equality, reconciliation, the sanctity of marriage, the way that God designed it. And we're just going to have to, I'm praying that God raises up oracles in media, oracles in politics, oracles in the journalism, oracle comedians. That, I mean, the left is so hysterical and so ridiculous that we ought to, it's like red meat. We ought to be able to get, we need comedy writers. I've said this before, unleash the comedians. I'm going to have to start raising up a donor base, and maybe even some of these guys will help us, because we've got to get the funding to create a media channel, a YouTube channel, which will take issue by issue, the truth versus the error, and not necessarily talking Christianese, but simply talking truth. I think that Jesus, if he was alive today, as you know, he is resurrected, so he's alive in his people. We need to let God's people learn how to become oracles in their sphere and champion politically incorrect ideas. We need to go against the grain of this political correctness. Donald Trump, I said, is a wrecking ball to the spirit of political correctness. Now, the wrecking ball is going to be empowered. Trump will be a Cyrus. I've said that. But a Cyrus is a secular leader, not a social reformer. So when Cyrus came to power, he unleashed Nehemiah and he unleashed Ezra. We need a new generation of preachers that are activating the church in kingdom language and empowering them with the Holy Ghost to be real, authentic communities of transformation. And the church needs to be more supernatural and soul winning than ever before, but we really got to unpack the Ezras that are going to be the new teachers for this Reformation. Now, notice that nations are moving towards nationalism. What nationalism is a yearning that is in the heart of nations to discover their glory and express it. And it's a yearning that is God-driven, but without Christ, who is the desire of nations. It's a yearning of nations to have their expression will never come to maturity. We have to really push. And I got to start, I'm torn about what to write, because I want to write for the mainstream Christian. But really, we need a sheep nation uprising, meaning that Christians are going to have to rise up and recognize that there are institutions, there's a Christian way, a worldview of government that doesn't have to be a theocracy. It isn't about making everybody believers. It's about Christian thinking that shapes law and justice and economics. Really, free enterprise is the genius of the Abrahamic system, which is the individual ability to create wealth rather than confiscate it from someone else. Socialism is the government taking the wealth of those that create it. Free enterprise is the unleashing of the capability of every individual to find their own vine or fig tree, as the Bible says, an ability to prosper and flourish, and a government that is not corrupted, that isn't trying to take over power, but is trying to create systems that facilitate the flourishing of its citizens. So we're really needing to have a renaissance, if you will, of how the church engages all of culture with the Christian worldview that can be sometimes ninja-like, meaning that we break down our thinking in the language that they speak so that it doesn't sound overtly like you got to speak Christianese to get there. And I love you guys because you track with me on this, but I mean, we're really right here now. Now we're, I felt pulled to Washington. I don't know what I'm doing here. That's the Magoo strategy. It's just like I just go through the open door, pray in the Spirit, and end up in unusual places. And now that I'm here, I'm really seeing that there's a new evangelical movement, an alignment of Christian churches and believers in the Ezra anointing, of teaching truth rather than error and exposing the mascots of the left, meaning those ministries that are hijacked by the propaganda of this other way of thinking, this, which is really the left is almost like a false theology. I want you guys to think about this. Because I'm not getting sucked into politics. I'm getting sucked into the narrative that's shaping the culture. And we need to have a way of refuting the lies that are out there that the average person can embrace and get and comprehend. We also need to create a channel for millennials, because young people are getting destroyed. Young people are under such intimidation on college campuses, and the whole safe places and the whole politically correct thing is out of control on campuses. We really have to see small pockets of revival on college campuses, prayer groups that can be raised up as countercultural movements on these campuses to give Christians the boldness to own their own space and have arguments that can refute the error of this false philosophy. But we also need to raise up a new academic method, because we got a factory that is producing tomorrow's leaders, and we're not going to win just because you got Trump in office for a couple of years. I'm concerned for a couple of reasons. One is that if there's an economic reset or a crisis, the left is going to blame Trump, and you're going to have riots in the street and this whole crazy narrative going on, and it could be total chaos. I feel like we've got maybe 2 years, not a lot of time, 2 years to consolidate this new movement and really get engaged with exposing the lies on the left, the organization of the left, and the theater, the kabuki theater that's going on in cities around America, where Craigslist is hiring for $1,500 a week protesters, funded by the likes of Soros and other people like him. We ought to get the names of all of them and put it out there so that people understand what's behind this demonic unrest in the country that's being facilitated right now by the Democratic Party. And I think that the Democratic Party right now, 1/3 of Congress is located in Massachusetts, New York, and California. That tells you that this is becoming a regionalized a governmental expression. And Barack Obama is so crazy. I mean, the guy's, honestly, he's going to continue to be a community organizer in Washington. He's probably going to become the default face of the movement, the false shepherd behind the counter movement. He can't help himself. He's going to be an activist ex-president, and we're going to have to slam the lies that have been perpetrated by him. His genius, what makes him formidable politically, is that that his sound bites are all sounding noble, but his agenda, his meetings with the Veritas videos show that he met like 100 times in the White House with that absolute lunar troublemaker that was infiltrating Trump's rallies and creating incidents of violence. And, I got Al Sharpton at the White House 65 times. This other guy with the Veritas, got exposed with those videos 100 times. The left is a political machine that operates under Saul Alinsky tactics of unrest. And it's time that Christians got educated in how this works. I did a post recently on Facebook from Acts 17, which says that the Jews hired lewd fellows of the baser sort, meaning they just simply hired rabble-rousers that were available for hire in order to create false uprisings against Paul. That verse that says that, those that have turned the world upside down have come here also, is a quote directly from the Saul Alinskys of those days fighting the apostolic movement. The difference is Trump is anointed, and his message, and in a sense, what he stands for is anointed to create this uprising. But the church ought to be creating that uprising. We need a fresh apostolic unction, an anointing, to raise up apostolic leaders that are going to be getting involved with the social discussion that's out there. That's the Nehemiah anointing. It's the social reforming. Social restoration and reforming has got to start to happen. And so many of you are Nehemiahs that are out there in the workplace and in the Seven Mountains. Some of you are Ezras, you're in the church mountain, you need to really dial in on the radical message of what God's doing. We have to look at sheep nations rising. We have to start to develop a language about this, and we're going to have many ecclesias, meaning small groups of believers that know how to pray, know how to get into the courts of heaven, and legislate and take authority over the domain, because there's a battle for the gates of influence. It's beginning right now. And it's kind of interesting, don't you think? The sheep nation uprising. And that's the whole nationalistic yearning that's going on in all these countries. Every country is seemingly wanting to be, it's a healthy thing. It's a patriotism that can go bad if it becomes led by demagogues and evil rulers. But if we can raise up Cyruses, if we can identify the anointed Cyruses, they aren't necessarily Christians, but they're people of principle who get right and wrong and who want to eradicate corruption and create prosperity and flourishing for their countries. And God will prosper those countries, and those sheep nations will be rising. I believe there's going to be a move of God raising up sheep nations before the Antichrist spirit consolidates a backlash. I believe in the Antichrist thing. I believe in the end times. I just think that Satan wanted to take the United States out, and it was premature. And all the pent-up prayers that were never answered in the 8 years of Obama are being answered right now. God could not release to America the move of God that he wanted without righteous government in position. We got guys like Pence and a lot of other really stellar personalities that are coming to office right now. Now God can release the treasures of darkness, treasures that have been hidden so the enemy doesn't even see them. And they're hidden in darkness so that God's people can discover them. This is the hour when the Daniels are going to begin to unearth. I don't even know what I'm saying, it's prophetic. But Daniel chapter 2 talks about that God removes kings and sets up kings, and he reveals those things that are hidden in darkness. And we are the ones that have the interpretation of the tongue that is writing on the wall. The problems that the world faces in our nations, we have unique authority to solve the riddle, to interpret what it is, and to release the timing. But we also have to be a people that are able to engage the prevailing debate. We have to engage in the pattern of public persuasion. It has to be covert and overt, meaning it has to be in the language of the Chaldeans or the language of culture on one hand, and in the strong language of an apostolic church. The message of the church needs to be controversial. Let it be controversial. Let it be a call to a new way of life. And let us be the people that are the true liberals in the sense of championing those that have no voice, that are downtrodden, those that are really those poor immigrant people that are being driven out of their nations because of ISIS. We can't let the small percentage of the radicals that are trying to get in block us from the fact that there is a migration move of people yearning for a better future. We've got to learn how to engage the harvest that is out there, that is surging through these borders of nations, to bring them the gospel, to bring them answers. And I just think that there's a moment we can miss, because the answer isn't political. It isn't in shoring up the right appointments in the Trump administration. That's where a lot of the energy is here, because that's the practical next step. But the spiritual battle is in whose language is prevailing in the marketplace of ideas. And we need the Soroses to arise in the kingdom. We've had the counterfeit. We've had the Thunder Road group I wrote about, which is the trifecta of organizations set up, the 527s that were set up by liberals to create these specific movements. And I'm telling you, it's from Black Lives Matter to Occupy Wall Street to the Center for American Progress, and there's 20 different organizations that are all about open borders, open society, Democracy Alliance, all these cool words that are actually subversive Marxists trying to destroy the fabric of what the founders created as a balance of power in the United States, with a small government and a people that were governed by some sense of moral code that kept them in check so that they didn't have to be held under a police state. We have to deal with the racial issue. The big battle for us is how many black leaders did not support Trump. And while there were those that did, the majority didn't. And we have to get into what's the spiritual wound, injury, and disconnect that has caused this division between the black and white church community, because it's going to be exacerbated by the rollout of economic entitlement reform, which Trump said he's not going to do, which will be inevitable. He'll have to do it because there's no way that he can deal with a $20 trillion deficit unless there's some form of economic revival that happens within the inner city that gives people hope and a way out, other than getting sucked into the socialist Marxist movement on the left. Does that make sense to you guys? I know I'm dropping a lot on you. I'm treating you like you're all PhDs and you're in a doctoral program, but we're just going to have to believe God for wisdom. Lord, I pray for a supernatural upgrade in the Periscopian world, that we are going to be the front lines of this great new movement, that we are the people that are going to be raised up to fill the void, to catalyze others, to inspire others, and to be the midwives to a great move of God that is coming to America. And for those other nations that are on this scope, thank you for praying for us. We had a miracle. But you know, a breakthrough isn't a stay through unless you follow through. The breakthrough, in order to stay through, needs a follow through. And I'm telling you, most of these folks here are not thinking about the follow through in the sense that I'm talking about. We need a new narrative in the American culture. And that narrative has to be, we have to really work out what is the story of free enterprise and opportunity. What is the story of personal responsibility? And the intolerant left has to be exposed for what it is. It's a bullying. Ironically, they're talking about how, Obama is such an amazing liar. He talks about America as his battle is about inclusive. It's not inclusive to persecute the beliefs of religious people, especially when I think that when Obama went out and said America isn't a Christian nation, he went to Cairo. That was an idiotic effort at trying to make America more friendly in a Muslim world. But what he should have said was that America is a Christian nation, but not Christian in the sense of religion, but a Christian in the sense of following the radical thinking of Jesus of Nazareth, who taught a new way through salvation and forgiveness and the blessing of God that lifts up people out of poverty and hopelessness and despair into the creating of stable culture and systems of flourishing and justice that create societies where people can discover their God-given talents and ability and creativity and find a place of dignity, earning their bread by their own ability, not being dependent upon government for their subsistence. Government is not God, and now we've got to really get out there. Does that make sense to you guys? Well, I hope it does, because it's where we got to go. It's what we got to do next. So, National Policy, what's it called again? Council for National Policy. It has such a nice sound to it, and these are great guys. I mean, these are great guys, really. But I'm telling you, the future belongs to the past presidents. Pat Robertson was the past president here at one time. Richard DeVos was. Ed Meese, God bless them. There's some great leadership here. It's time. We got to raise it up. And there's some powerful women here. I'll tell you, women are so anointed. I see some women rising. Like Phyllis Schlafly was a great model. If you never got a chance to know her, we need some women that will rise up and stand as the new feminist movement, defending the role of men and of women in society and in culture and holistic families and the family model. And we need to not be ashamed and apologizing and modifying that for every transgender, bisexual, transsexual, whatever crazy new combination of chromosomes is out there in the social universe. We need to really hold up a standard for what God created and defend it and talk about it as though that's the system that works. Because it does. It does. You guys are in? I say yes. All right. You guys got to share this with your friends, because we got to get this message out. We got to get more of a community. We got to create a larger base so that we can organize. This is going to be, I'm telling you, the next 2 years are critical. We're going to have to organize our efforts more. We've got to find how many of you are called to, reform education, reform to launch businesses, to engage in government, school boards, local boards. We're going to have a grassroots occupation. Casper, thank you. Dolphin, great. Missy, super. Tracy, Salter, excellent. Sherry Horton, you're always on target. P.S. Stinger, great. Dwayne, sweet girl. Sweet girl, yeah. Bill Dorr, cool. C. Fries, okay, Kathy Fries. Tracy Suter, Cutter, BU, Denise, all right. Go for it, go for it. I'll tell you what, we got an army. I just realized that my staff is almost all women. Actually, it is all women. Mercedes was telling me the other day, she said, you realize you got like 7 women on your team. I thought, well, it's a female uprising, man. We need the women to step up. We got to get the men out there, too. Hey, thanks, Heather. We're sharing it. You guys are sharing it. And Prager evidently has a great university online. I'm going to check it out because we got to get our 7MU. I never launched it, but we're going to create a 7M university where we're going to deal with the lies on the left and the truth on the right and the kingdom message that puts it all together. And I think we can do it. Hillsdale's outstanding. Indeed, Hillsdale's superb. D. Geskin. All right. Smithville. Plukas. O'Keefe. Ann Weiss. One. Penny. All right. So, Periscopians. Chickad. Whatever Chickad is. O'Keefe Kim. Kim O'Keefe. Penny married. And Patricia 5454. What's the 54? What does that mean? So we're going to create that 7MU, and we're going to create some great stuff for millennials. I want to create sound bites that can answer the xenophobic. When people say we're xenophobic and, bigots and all that stuff, we're going to have to push back on this stuff, which is all crazy. I think xenophobia by its definition is the fear of the unknown, which is really crazy because the left is afraid of us because they don't understand what we're doing. We're unknown to them, so they're afraid of us. They're actually the xenophobes. They're Christophobes. They're phobic about Jesus. They're Jesusophobes. See, I'm telling you, there's just like tons of low-hanging fruit on these. The left is crazy. So anyway, guys, I'm glad that someone says that you're a KKK. No, I'm not KKK. I'm LWW. So let's see. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Yes, they are Jesusophobes. Meow. All right. Well, let's see. I was a Jezophobe, but but the Lord delivered us. But this guy some guy's calling me a KKK disgust. See, the guy says I'm KKK. Basically, here's the problem with the left. That they don't have arguments, so they brand you. You ever notice when you don't have an argument, when you're intellectually lazy, what you do is you label someone. So people that label someone as KKK, what they're ignorant of is my primary business partner is African American. So why would I have a black business partner for one of my key businesses if I'm a KKK? What the hell's up with that? See, tell you what, people that label you are crazy. So when the left doesn't know, when the left is intellectually devoid of arguments, what they do is they label you as a bigot, a homophobe, a xenophobe, a whatever phobe, because that way that's how they kind of like categorize you. But you see, Jesus doesn't allow me to even do that with my enemies, because my enemies are human beings made in the image of God. Even if they're deceived, they're just deceived people. But we were all deceived at one time, so we're kind of compassionate with people that want to label us that way, because we recognize that at one time we were morally bankrupt, and just it's simple. If you don't like somebody, just label them. Well, you're a bigot. Well, what if they're actually not a bigot? What if they just have different ideas than you? You're going to have to change your language. You're going to have to figure out how to debate a little bit better than just labeling someone KKK, especially when they're not. So, all right, my friends, I got to get ready for the next round of meetings in the morning, But basically, the left talks about tolerance and inclusion, but they exclude everybody that doesn't think like them, and they have no tolerance. That's why I can't remember once in the last two elections. So you ever notice like the Electoral College? Everybody's talking about the Electoral College. Get rid of the Electoral College. Well, Obama got elected by the Electoral College. By the way, Trump had the popular vote. By the time they get done counting all the illegals that were in that $1 million vote buffer that Hillary has, I guarantee there's a million illegals in those votes. Democrats are notorious for, putting dead people on the ballot. And I think right now there's 100,000 people still collecting Social Security that are supposed to be 105 years old or older. That technically means that they're dead but still collecting money. There's a lot of fraud that is going on in America. I'm going to tell you something. Hillary's popular vote will be proven to be false because of all the fake names that the Democrats put on the ballots. Besides that, here's the other answer. People talk about Hillary with the popular vote, popular vote, popular vote. Democrats are all fixated on that. I'll tell you something. If the election was going to be determined by who got the most votes, Trump would have got the most votes. Do you know why? Because he would have gone to California, and California voted all Democrat because no Republican went in there to go, looking for votes. You know why? Because California is an overwhelmingly blue state with 50 electoral votes. What does that mean? That means if Trump went there, he would have gotten at least 2 million conservatives voting for him. There's 2 million Republican voters out there that didn't vote because there's no sense in voting. So Trump would have got the popular vote. See, here's the deal. Whatever terms you set for the game is how the game is played. So if it's Electoral College, Trump went after those votes. If it was popular vote, Trump would have gone after that votes, and he would have got them. And I'm telling you, by the time they get done checking all those votes out, you're going to see about 1 million illegals were voted in there, because that's the way the Democrats do stuff. They cheat. So it isn't a popular vote thing. That's another mechanism of the left, which is stupid. Besides that, it's like imagine, here's the way the left wants to do it. They want to say, well, the popular vote. Imagine if you took the World Series, and instead of saying, well, you won 4 games out of 7. Suppose you gave the victory to the team that had the most home runs. Well, it doesn't matter how many. If you won 4 out of 7, you just take the team that scored the most points, and they would win. But that's not how you do the Cubs-Cleveland game, did you? That's not how you do basketball either. You know why? It's based on who wins the games. However the game is set up, the left wants to change the game so that they can win it illegally or by public opinion. By the way, how does the left get anything done? If they can't get it done by votes because the states won't support them on a lot of things, they do it by litigation. They do it by the Supreme Court. See, the majority of Americans actually didn't vote for same-sex marriage. 9 lawyers had a discussion. That's all the Supreme Court is a bunch of lawyers. So, the truth is that the left can't win in the ballot box. They do an end run and they go to litigation and they try to sue you or go to court because they're all about control. And that's why, like I said, Trump, if the game was about popular vote, Trump would have gone after the popular vote and he would have gone in California, would have got those votes. He still would have won. Would have been easier then because then he would have had the popular vote. And then the Democrats would complain he didn't get the Electoral College. See what I mean? Yeah, can't win for losing, people. So anyway, we're still in a battle for ideas. And the key is we've got to create a prevailing narrative in America that's going to shift the lawless left and expose it for what it is, so that America in the middle, and especially Christians, it's very frustrating because Christians watch the news like the news is actually a legitimate source of information. The news is working for the Democratic Party. You got to know that. They're never going to tell the truth. They're always going to find the aspect of, and every appointee that Trump's going to put up, I guarantee if they've ever said anything in their life, did a Twitter message that was bad, if they ever sent an email they shouldn't have sent, it'll be brought up and quoted. Of course, they're going to be called racist and KKK or whatever, or homophobic or something, because that's how the left destroys their enemies. They label them. They don't come at them with ideas. They come at them with labels. You guys got to start catching this, because that's what they do to you. That's why you are the adorable deplorables. All right, I'm going to let you guys go. This is long enough, but I just wanted to check in. Thanks for being up with me at 1 a.m. on the East Coast, 12 o'clock midnight on Central Standard Time. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I did a broadcast earlier but I couldn't get it uploaded. I'm sorry. I took you into I had Dr. Dobson. I was at Dr. Dobson and Shirley Dobson's table tonight. They're a very gracious couple. Shirley's great. She's just so natural and easy and unpretentious and just friendly. And I was with some really great people tonight. And I really admire the work that they've done, setting up America for us to do what we got to do next. And we got to do it. All right, Tigers. I'll talk to you soon. This is your roving 7M underground ninja sheep in Washington. I'll bring you here with me next time. Bye-bye.